What if the person who never fights for the spotlight ends up running the whole room? What if the quiet observer in the corner is the one steering who connects with whom, which topics take off, and how everyone feels by the end of the night? Here's the secret most people miss. INFJs don't dominate social dynamics by being the loudest voice. They dominate by being the most attuned presence. They understand the emotional temperature, they read the unspoken rules, and they guide the flow without announcing that they're doing it. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling seen, strengthened, and somehow more sure of yourself, there's a good chance an INFJ just orchestrated the moment, and you never even noticed. INFJs win first by noticing what others don't. While most people track words, INFJs track patterns, tiny shifts in facial expression, pacing, posture, and tone. They catch the hesitation after a joke, the micro wince when someone changes the topic, and the meaning behind a pause. That attention becomes their map. Instead of barging into a conversation, they take inventory. Who is comfortable, who wants to be included, who's trying too hard, and who's shrinking into themselves. Then, with a single sentence or a well-timed question, they open a door and invite someone in. It looks like kindness, and it is, but it's also expert social engineering. They're solving the puzzle in real time, and everyone benefits. They also understand pacing better than anyone. Social dynamics are a rhythm. Some people push too fast, others drag too slow. INFJs feel when energy rises or dips and adjust the tempo with stories or questions. If the group is scattered, they anchor it with a thoughtful observation. If it's tense, they bleed off pressure with humor. If it's flat, they supply spark by spotlighting someone's overlooked talent. Their timing is a form of invisible mastery. You'll never hear an INFJ say, "Okay, everyone, listen up." You'll just notice the moment starts to feel better, easier, more connected, and you'll assume it happened on its own. Another reason INFJs quietly dominate is their commitment to making others look good. Influence grows wherever people feel safe. INFJs instinctively create that safety by validating perspectives, summarizing what someone tried to say more clearly than they said it themselves, and protecting people from social missteps. It's not manipulation, it's stewardship. They understand that most people speak to be valued, not merely heard. So the INFJ acts as a bridge builder, translating one person's point in a way that another person can receive. They do this so naturally that others start unconsciously following their lead, mirroring their tone and their care. Before you know it, the INFJ is setting the norms. Be thoughtful, be real, be respectful. That's quiet dominance. Silence is one of their sharpest tools. A pause from an INFJ isn't empty, it's an open field where truth feels safe to land. When they stay quiet after you finish talking, it invites more. You keep going. You drop the performance and start telling the real story. That's when trust is formed, and trust is power. Not the kind you can wave around, but the kind people give you willingly because being around you makes them braver and clearer. In a world that rewards noise, intentional silence stands out. It feels rare. It feels like depth. People lean toward it. INFJs also play the long game. Social dynamics aren't just what happens in one conversation, it's the accumulation of hundreds. INFJs remember details. Your sister's interview on Tuesday, the coffee you said you loved, the trip you canceled because you were scared. Weeks later, they'll circle back with a check-in or a "How did it go?" That continuity is magnetic. It signals you matter beyond this moment. Over time, that's how they form the deepest alliances, through consistent, layered care that outlasts the hype. Others might rule the moment. INFJs rule the arc. Here's another secret. INFJs can be strategic without being calculating. They don't treat people like chess pieces. They treat connection like a garden. They know when to prune, when to protect, and when to let something grow wild. If a conversation is dominated by one voice, they'll gently redirect, not with a scolding, but with an invitation. I'd love to hear what you think about this, aimed at someone who hasn't spoken. If a group starts drifting into gossip, they'll shift the focus to values or solutions. If someone needs praise to keep going, the INFJ will supply it honestly, precisely, and privately. The result is an ecosystem where people naturally become their better selves. INFJs also understand leverage, social leverage. The most powerful person in a room isn't always the person with the title. It's the one who understands the human web. INFJs notice who influences whom, which opinions carry weight, and which relationships are fragile. They use that knowledge to introduce right people at right times for right reasons. That friend who's quietly brilliant but never gets opportunities. The INFJ will plug them into a conversation where their skill finally lands. That friend who's spiraling and needs a reality check. The INFJ will steer them towards someone strong yet compassionate. This kind of matchmaking builds trust capital. People learn, when they connect me with someone, it's a perfect fit. And trust capital is dominance that never needs to raise its voice. A hallmark of INFJ influence is their narrative skill. Humans think in stories, and INFJs shape stories with precision. They know when a serious point needs a personal anecdote to stick, when a conflict needs reframing to heal, and when a hard truth needs to be wrapped in humor so it can be received. They don't argue people into changing. They invite people to catch a vision that feels better than the current one. That's why they can shift a group's tone without forcing it. They give people a better story to step into, one where each person's dignity stays intact. Boundaries amplify their impact. Dominating social dynamics doesn't mean being everywhere, it means being exactly where you matter most. INFJs are selective with their presence. They show up fully when it counts and leave early when the energy turns cheap. This selectivity creates a mystique. Their contributions feel premium because they don't flood the market. When they speak, it carries weight. When they vouch for someone, it means something. And when they say no, people remember. The absence of an INFJ can be as instructive as their presence. It signals, this environment doesn't align with my values. Over time, that shapes who invites them, how people behave around them, and what doors open. Let's talk about conflict, because this is where INFJs truly shine. They won't start a fight, but they won't dodge a necessary one either. They prefer to de-escalate by naming what's actually happening beneath the surface. Fear, ego, misunderstanding. They'll call out the pattern, not the person, which lowers defenses. They step between competing egos and redirect the energy toward the shared goal. And if someone crosses a line repeatedly, an INFJ will go quiet and decisive. They withdraw their energy, their advocacy, their access. That calm detachment hits harder than a dramatic blow-up because people feel the loss. When an INFJ is done, they're not punishing you. They're protecting the ecosystem. In dating and relationships, INFJs dominate differently. They don't chase attention, they calibrate compatibility. Instead of asking, how do I win this person? They ask, who is this person becoming, and can we build something meaningful? That question filters drama out fast. They're not seduced by temporary chemistry if long-term values don't align. They'll flirt in their own way, through curiosity, through remembering details, through creating a safe space where you can be honest without losing face. That's intoxicating because it's rare. And rare becomes valuable quickly. People realize the INFJ is not auditioning for approval, they're assessing for alignment. That's quiet dominance in the most personal arena. Texting and digital spaces? INFJs still run the room. They read between lines even on a screen. If a thread is veering into chaos, they recenter it with a question that pulls people back to purpose. If a friend disappears, they're the one who DMs with a simple, "thinking of you." If a group chat is blowing up over nothing, they'll opt out of the noise and reach out one-to-one, where real connection happens. Their restraint with digital attention, choosing depth over constant engagement, creates a gravity that people feel. Again, scarcity increases value. A big part of their subtle power is moral authority. INFJs care about being fair, truthful, and kind, not as a performance, but as a baseline. When they make a mistake, they own it quickly. When they don't know, they say so. When someone else shines, they celebrate it. That consistency builds a reputation. If the INFJ says this is the right thing, it probably is. In a world where many voices are driven by self-interest, that reputation is rocket fuel. People turn to them in sensitive moments because they trust the compass, not just the competence. They're also masters of reframing. Social tension often lives in stuck frames. She's against me, they don't listen, this always happens. The INFJ listens, holds space, and then offers a frame that opens a door. Could it be that they're scared, not stubborn? If we show them how this protects their goals, they might get on board. This isn't spin. It's a search for the framing that reveals the path forward. Once the frame shifts, people often release their defensiveness and collaborate. It's hard to measure that in the moment, but it's enormous power over time. Vulnerability is another lever they use wisely. INFJs don't dump their life story to get attention. They share a small, precise piece of truth that gives others permission to be honest. I've struggled with that too, or, I used to react that way until I learned this. Those sentences melt armor. Suddenly, you're not trying to win. You're working together. In that atmosphere, status games feel childish. People default to real talk, and real talk is where decisions get made. Let's address a misconception. Some people mistake INFJ calm for passivity. It's not. It's poise. They can hold their ground without theatrics. If someone tries to dominate them with volume or status, the INFJ won't wrestle in the mud. They'll state their boundary once, clearly. If it's crossed again, they'll exit the arena and take their network, their ideas, and their steadiness with them. That exit reshapes the social landscape. People realize the stabilizer is gone. They feel the gap. INFJs also invest in self-mastery so they can hold space without collapsing into it. They journal, they read, they study people and patterns, not to manipulate, but to understand. They metabolize their emotions privately so that in public, they can be calm under pressure. When the room gets stormy, they don't add thunder, they become the steady ground. That's why people instinctively turn toward them when things get messy. Low drama, high clarity. That combination leads. Here's a practical snapshot of how this looks in a group. The conversation has gone off the rails. Two people are talking over each other. A third is rolling their eyes. The energy is brittle. An INFJ leans forward and says, "I think we're all saying something important." Can I try something? Sarah, I heard you saying X because of Y. Mark, it sounds like you're worried about Z. Does that feel right? Heads nod. Cool. If both are true, maybe the path is A with safeguards B and C. Would that solve the thing we're all actually worried about? The conflict isn't magically over, but the room is now solution-shaped instead of ego-shaped. That pivot is the INFJ's signature move. Even their compliments are strategic, not fake, not flattery, but targeted encouragement that unlocks potential. They don't say, "Good job," and move on. They say, "The way you explained that step made it easy to understand. You have a gift for clear teaching." Specificity creates identity. People rise to match the truth they're seen with. Over time, that ripple changes what a team believes about itself. Again, quiet dominance. If you're an INFJ, here's how to lean even further into this superpower without burning out. First, protect your bandwidth. You don't need to fix every room. Choose rooms where your influence multiplies people who multiply good. Second, be explicit about your boundaries earlier. Your silence sends signals, but some people only hear it after they've crossed a line 3 times. Save yourself the drain by naming your limits kindly and clearly. Third, let your standards speak for themselves. If you ask for thoughtfulness, model it. If you value honesty, practice it even when it stings. Your consistency is your credibility. If you're not an INFJ but want to benefit from their style, start small. Listen longer than you're comfortable. Ask one layer deeper. What's the real worry under that? Offer precise affirmation. Not, "You're great," but, "Your patience kept us together today." Reroute tension toward the shared goal. And when you're tempted to dominate with volume, try dominating with presence instead. You'll be shocked how much shifts when people feel you're here for the truth, not the trophies. By now, you can see the pattern. INFJs don't dominate social dynamics by taking control, they earn it by giving it back. They amplify the right voices, lower the temperature, reshape the frame, and hold the line on values. They trade in trust, not tactics. They build rooms where it's safe to be brilliant. And because they do, people naturally defer to their lead, even if no one ever says the words out loud. So the next time you're in a group and a conversation that was messy starts to move with grace, the next time someone who was quiet finds their voice, the next time conflict turns into clarity and you don't know exactly how it happened, look around. The loudest person won't have done it. The shiniest person won't have done it. The person who did it might already be moving on to refill someone's courage in a different corner of the room. That's the INFJ way: soft handshake, steel backbone, and a compass that points to what matters. And if that's you, if you recognized yourself in the pauses, the patterns, and the long game, don't let anyone convince you that your way is small. It's not small, it's surgical. It's not weak, it's wise. The world doesn't only change because someone grabs a megaphone. Sometimes it changes because someone listens until the truth feels safe to speak. Keep doing that. Keep being the person who can hold the room without holding the mic. Keep being the person whose influence is felt more than seen. That's not just quiet dominance. That's leadership at its rarest level, the kind that leaves everyone stronger than you found them.